Warhounds. Perhaps a slightly underrated, underused unit. Our four-legged friends can be very dangerous when used correctly against the right troops, and can provide a great tactical distraction. So let's delve into the world of the Warhound. Okay, let's start by looking at the different Warhound types. On the Chaos Warriors, you've obviously got regular Chaos Warhounds and poison Chaos Warhounds. They're identical in stats, with the only difference being that one is of course poison and does all this to the enemy's stats when they attack. But in the way we tactically plan to use them, the poison isn't really necessary. So we're going to stick with the regular kind for now. They're cheaper as well, so it's going to save you a bit of money going for them, and they'll do the job just as well. Stats wise, they have a trait called Scaly Skin, which reduces their missile damage by 15%. So this is really useful when you approach sometimes. You might take some missile fire, and because they have low armor and low leadership, very low leadership, they will rout quite quickly if you're not careful. They're of course very fast. Their attack and damage stats aren't really relevant because we're going to be looking to damage a certain type of enemy. So that's a typical overview of your Chaos Warrior Warhounds, but other factions have very similar units, if not the same unit, that can do the same thing. The Beastmen have the same Chaos Warhounds, except they have Vanguard deployment. The Vampires have a slightly different unit in Dire Wolves. They can be used in the same way, but they don't have Scaly Skin. Instead, they have Vanguard deployment, so that's useful in itself. They have no armor and less leadership than the Warhounds, so you do have to be extra careful with the Dire Wolves. The Greenskins, they have a different unit, but still kind of similar in the Goblin Wolf Riders, so still sort of a hound. But they're very cheap and are going to be better in melee. You can use them in the same way as I'm about to show you. They're very fast and they've got shields and they can stand in a melee fight for a bit, so they're actually a really strong option for this. And even Bretonia has a unit that we could use for this in Mounted Yeomen. They are slightly more expensive though at 600. They're basically like the Goblin Wolf Riders but better. Whether you want to spend that much though is another question. So now that we know about Warhounds, what can we do with them? Well, they're great for flanking, so I'm going to go right around the back here, and my main targets I'm looking for is artillery and skirmishers. That's who we're looking for with our Warhounds. So I've got them hidden up on the hill here. They are going to come out and have to reveal themselves though. Ideally, you want to try and keep them as concealed as possible behind trees or hills, mountains, whatever. Keeping them out of sight is only going to help your cause. Not a big deal if you can't though, because it's not always possible. So we're going to flank round. The enemy has clocked them, but that's fine. In a way, it's good that he's seen them because he's now got something else to think about. It's another distraction that may lead to micromanaging errors on his part. And I'm right round the back of his army now. He's checked me. He knows I'm after his artillery. So he's protecting that with some Kernwraiths, or his allies protecting that with some Kernwraiths. And then he's got some Demigryphs nearby as well, just in case. So he's going to come after me, and we're just going to play a little bit. I'm going to try and get near them. He's going to block me off. We're going to mess around. But I see an opportunity. The beauty of the Warhounds is their speed. I can outrun these Demigryphs so easily. And I see an opportunity here. These two Skirmisher units pretty much unprotected. I'm going to go in for the kill. And I get a hold of these Skirmishers, handgunners, very lightly armoured, no melee skills. And they're going to get absolutely torn to shreds. Look at the kills fly up. Warhounds, 23, 25, 30 kills, 40 kills. So Warhounds will destroy lightly armoured skirmishers, and lightly armoured is the important bit. Don't go trying this on anything with a lot of armour. Dwarves, don't even consider this, it won't work. And some skirmishers are okay in a melee fight, so sometimes they can do quite a bit of damage to Warhounds. So be careful, but mostly lightly armoured skirmishers will get destroyed by Warhounds. And manned artillery. Actually, Dwarven artillery is probably the only dwarf unit you could try this on. And that is basically the gist of this tactic. We're looking to flank round and get hold of the lightly armoured skirmishers and artillery. Even if we can't, causing a distraction is good. I'd advise always trying this from the flanks though. Don't charge headlong straight towards the enemy, especially if they've got skirmishers looking your way. You'll probably get shot down before you even reach them. In this battle here, I've got hold of these skirmishers, but there's some spearmen getting involved as well, and they're going to do a fair bit of damage to my Warhounds. So I'm going to pull back, and I've managed to get about half health off of that skirmisher unit, so that's a victory in itself. And I've also kept them from firing at my incoming units. So I'm going to pull away, I'm going to regroup, and then I'm going to come back in for another shot. And I'm going to manage to catch these skirmishers as they're running, so I can get hold of the artillery and these skirmishers again. And this is kind of a suicide run. I know there's spearmen around and they're probably going to get me, but I'm going to stay in there and just try to do as much damage as I can until my Warhounds rout. So I've tied up one unit of artillery and one unit of skirmishers, and that's going to keep them from firing at my army as they're about to arrive. So I'm sacrificing my Warhounds for the greater good to try and protect my army. Warhound style units can be very dangerous in the late game. You'll typically find that people and the AI will protect their skirmishers less and less as the battle wears on, providing you with a lot of opportunities, so sometimes keeping them out of the battle until this time can be wise. So the next tactic I'm going to show you, I've taken the footage from one of my online battles because I don't have any other footage of it in action. So if you're wondering why there's no audio, that's why. So you can see here that my opponent has his missile units out in front of his infantry, ready to fire at my incoming units. So I'm going to bring my direwolves in from the flank, move them in a bit to try and get as many units as I can. And my aim here is not really to damage the skirmishers or kill many of them, but I just want to push them back behind the infantry line. This is going to A, stop them firing at my incoming infantry, and B, set them up for the kill on the next part of this tactic. And once I've got them all to flee behind the infantry line, then I'm going to flank round and they're pretty much mine for the taking. Unless there's any units there to defend them, I could either dodge them or just wait for the right opportunity. Very effective against those with their skirmishers out front. Another handy use for Warhounds is getting them to kill off routing units, or chasing them enough to make them shatter or run off the map. If an enemy unit is routing and it's still got quite a lot of men left or quite a lot of health left, it can be worth chasing them down. Even if they've got a lot of armour, they shouldn't return with Warhounds on their case. So keep an eye out for vulnerable units and beat them down to the point of where they're pretty much useless, and then maybe go and look for another unit to bring down. And one quick final thing, Warhounds can be very effective against Skirmisher cav, provided that they can catch them. So check that your Warhounds have more speed than the Skirmisher cav, and you should be able to wipe them out or just do a lot of damage to them. If you don't, you may take a lot of damage and get kited. So there you go, my top canine based tactic. This one's great for helping you control the enemy skirmishers, especially if you're a faction that doesn't have any skirmishers yourself. So give it a try, add it to your tactics book, and it will surely serve you well. I use this one quite a lot. If you've seen any of my online videos, you'll probably see me of using this a couple of times. So give it a try, and I'm sure it can aid you in your conquering. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future.